Order! Order! You are an incorrigible delinquent at times. Behave yourself, man!
We were talking about in the paper review, various groups vying to lead the Out campaign in the EU referendum have been falling out with one another. Does this matter at all? Well, yes, it does, because the outcome will shape the kind of Brexit campaign we see. Will it all be about immigration or about a great economic future? One of those splashing around in these murky waters is UKIP's only MP, Douglas Carswell. Welcome. Now, you are UKIP's only MP, that is factually correct. But you don't get on terribly well with UKIP's leader, and your Brexit campaign is not the UKIP-based one, is it? So why are you in UKIP at all?
Well, hang on a second. UKIP's National Executive Council, it's a formal ruling body, has made it quite clear that UKIP's formal position is to be supportive of all campaigns. We're equidistant. We see this as a great opportunity. We don't decide who gets designation, but we are backing both, and we're more than happy. More than half of our councillors are signed up to Vote Leave. I can tell you one thing, the UKIP Parliamentary Party is 100% on board with Vote Leave.
That's because that's you. I mean, there isn't a single other major UKIP figure, apart from yourself, who backs Vote Leave.
I noticed in my Twitter feed this Saturday, a number of our MEPs were out leafleting for Vote Leave. Most of our councillors are supporting Vote Leave.
For those people who are already confused and watching, explain to us the difference between Vote Leave and Leave.EU, which is the Aaron Banks and Nigel Farage supported one.
Euroscepticism is an authentic, popular expression of dissatisfaction. You're going to get different suggestions as to how we should fight the campaign. But, you know, let's be clear about this. I think there is and you're right about this, I think there is a difference of strategy between the two campaigns. On the one hand, I think Leave.EU seems to want to put more of a focus on identity and questions of immigration. I happen to believe, and I think Vote Leave happens to believe, that we want an optimistic, upbeat, internationalist message that focuses on
less about immigration. But if you look at the polling and if you look at where people's priorities are, like it or not, people are really, really worried about immigration. And if you underplay that or undercook that, you could lose the campaign.
Immigration is incredibly important. It really is important. But it's also really important that we say, as part of taking back control, we're not just looking to take back control of our borders. We also want to take back control of our money. Every week, this week, we will have sent £350 million to Brussels. That's enough to build a new NHS hospital. That's 60 times the NHS Cancer Fund. So what we need to do is, yes, we need to focus on immigration, but we need a broad repertoire, and we need to appeal to the undecideds. There's some very encouraging polling out this week that showed that actually our side, the Leave side, is ahead. But, you know, what's really important is we recognise the undecideds in all of this. And the undecideds, I think, we need to make sure that we're talking their language.
So what's the problem with Leave.EU, the Aaron Banks based one, and the one that Nigel Farage is fighting with? What's the problem with them?
I'm not going to be critical of any other Eurosceptics. We're all on the same side. We all want the same thing. I've got enormous admiration for Nigel Farage. It's thanks to Nigel that we're getting this referendum in the first place. But look, this isn't about the personalities and preferences of politicians.
They've been very rude about you.
Well, Andrew, you know I am never rude. I've been in politics. I don't make personal attacks. If other people perhaps do that, you need to talk to them about it. We're all on the same side. What matters is that we're getting this referendum, and we need to make it clear to people that if you vote to stay in, you're voting for David Cameron's appalling deal. If you vote to come out, we're taking back control. Look, we face enormous economic and demographic challenges as a country. We can't address those by remaining part of the EU. We've got to take back control of our priorities, our spending priorities.
The grassroots organisation, Grassroots Go, again supported by Aaron Banks, has nearly 500,000 people in contact with it. It seems to be a massive organisation. Isn't the truth that the rival organisation, the one that Nigel Farage and Aaron Banks are supporting, is going to become the designated one? It's got a much wider spread in terms of people who are coming to meetings, people who are in contact with it, and it has a wide spread of support generally.
You're inviting me to say something that unkind about another set of Eurosceptics. I'm never going to do that. I wish Go well. I was out at the weekend and the weekend before last delivering leaflets. We've got a great ground game in Vote Leave. We delivered millions of leaflets. I'm not going to be disrespectful of any other Eurosceptics. We're all on the same side. These are good people. I think Vote Leave will get designation. I think they're a great team. They're led by people who've done this before. And I think what's important is that we make sure that people realise that David Cameron's deal is pretty duff.
OK, now I know this seems small beer, but Dominic Cummings and Matthew Elliott, the two people running your campaign, as it were, or running your side of the Brexit campaign, have come under a lot of criticism, and they've been accused of being divisive and difficult and so forth. You have presumably worked with both of them pretty closely, so what's your view of them?
I've known Dominic and Matthew for 20-something years, and do you know what impresses me? They've done this before. Each of them has actually run and won a referendum campaign, not just won it. The AV referendum, if you remember that, this stage before the AV referendum, the against side was 2-1 behind. He turned that round. These are experienced people. They know what they're doing.
Mr. Banks says they couldn't run a sweet shop.
Look, I'm never going to be personal. If some people want to make disparaging comments about fellow Eurosceptics, you need to talk to them about it.
I think people, disparaging or not, are just simply confused as to why the Brexit campaign is not a single organisation. This could be your one chance to get Britain out of the EU. You know, one chance in your lifetime, my lifetime. If people are squabbling at this stage, it's disastrous for you, isn't it?
It's tempting, isn't it, to say, why don't you just merge? And if it was just about personality, I think, of course, that would happen. But it's about strategy. I think there's a fundamental strategic difference. We've talked about merger. Yes, we want to work with and cooperate with Leave.EU, but fundamentally they want to focus on issues of identity and immigration. I believe we need an optimistic internationalist campaign based on the idea that we would be better off out economically. Our children and our children's children will be better off and more prosperous if we leave. Our food bills would be lower. Our energy costs would be lower. Our tax bills would be lower. We need to leave the EU so we can take back control of our money and our spending priorities. And that's a fundamentally different type of campaign. And
you need to reach out to lots of people who are not sure about whether we should be in or out, and frankly haven't thought about this very much before. Nigel Farage says he is the man today to do this. He can reach those people. Why is he wrong? Nigel's absolutely fantastic at reaching out to people who are fed up with politics. We all know that. And Nigel's got an absolutely vital role to play in doing that. We also need other people. We also need... Look, 87% of people didn't vote UKIP at the last general election. I know that. I felt that particularly strongly. We need to reach out to the 87% of people who didn't vote UKIP. And that's why we need a broad-based, optimistic, upbeat campaign. And to achieve that, you need some more big figures, presumably from the cabinet and so forth, who you would like to come into your campaign. Of all of those, if I gave you a wish list, who would you really like to come out tomorrow and say, I'm with Leave? I welcome absolutely anyone, from David Cameron himself to Boris Johnson to Aaron Banks. We need them all. We want them all, and I welcome absolutely everyone who joins the campaign to Leave. I'm not going to be disparaging about anyone. But people like Michael Gove, Boris Johnson, those are the big prizes for you, presumably. It would be wonderful to have them on board, but, you know, we need everyone. And ultimately, in a referendum, everyone, from David Cameron to individuals in my constituency, they all get the same vote. And are you assuming, finally, that we're talking about June? I think it's very likely to be June. And I think the machinery of government that David Cameron has around him is very much sort of working on a June 23rd. You have a frantically busy few weeks ahead. Thanks so much for coming in this morning.